Today I'm going to record a song just using the iPhone with GarageBand. It's immensely powerful and there's nothing that's connected to this. There's no other keyboards, there's no other interfaces or anything. It's just the phone and the mic that's inside it. Now I've got a practice amp here which is going to do my bass and my guitar. Very capable amp, look that up in the link below. And I'm going to do a tune, I'm going to play Lucille. Little Richard died very recently and really without him rock and roll wouldn't have happened. So it's arguable that iPhone GarageBand wouldn't be there either. It's his contribution is extremely important. So first I'm going to record some drums. Now there are a few ways of doing it on GarageBand and I'm actually going to use two ways just to create one drum beat. I'm going to play in the bass drum and kick drum, and then I'm going to use the drummer app to do the hi-hats for me because I like the way it handles hi-hats. So I'm going to start a new song and I'm going to find, there we go, drums and acoustic drums. There we go, got a nice drum kit and you can get your sounds out of it. Great. Now I'm going to change the tempo. I want something that's a little bit faster. Do something like 150, just so that this demonstration isn't hugely long. I'm going to speed the tempo up a bit. So I'm going to play the bass and the snare in first, just using the touch controls. I've got this other camera here. I like to do things where you can see fingers pressing buttons rather than just screenshots. I think it's really important with that. So I'm going to start recording. Here we go. Okay, one or two little gremlins in there, extra sounds. I can go in and edit those, which is what I'm going to do now. When you put drums in for the first time, it automatically sorts the timing out for you. So with any luck, that will be fine. I'll just go into edit mode. And then I'm going to just get rid of those extraneous sounds that I didn't want. It was that extra loud snare drum there. I just want some sort of consistency within the whole. There we go. So I'll just listen to that. So you can see that the bass drum and the snare drum are graphically represented on the screen there. Oh, that one was in the wrong place. Now, this is where I can zoom in and just find this one here and drag it. You might need to drag the length before you can drag the actual drum back. There we go. So. Ooh. Now that snare drum there wasn't very loud. I want it to be louder, so I'm just going to single click on it and then the velocity button there, and you've got like a volume control there so you can bring it up to the level of the others. So if I just go back a little bit. Now that will do me absolutely fine. Now I need to cut, where I came to an end, I need to just cut this bar off, because I want to loop what I've done. So I'm going to click the split button. Oh, sometimes it's right over the record button. So I'll just click that again and split. And then you get a pair of scissors and you can drag them across in order to make the cut. And then that means I can get rid of that bar of silence afterwards. Now I want to loop this. So I'm going to actually set using the plus button in the top right, I'm going to change the order, sorry, the number of bars that I'm going to have. So I'm going to have 40 bars, let's say. Now, sometimes it actually loops what you've done, but actually I want to start at bar 2 because I want my lyrics to come in slightly before the drums. And then I can just click loop, and then it'll loop those drums for the entire bars that I've specified. So now I'm going to click the plus button and I want some hi-hats. So I'm going to go and find drummer, acoustic drummer, and it brings up this automatic drum kit, but I wanted the bass and the snare drum, the kick and the snare, to be really the pattern that I played, but I want some flexibility with the hi-hats. So that's where this comes in. I'm going to click the bass drum to switch it off and the snare drum to switch it off, and I'm going to take fills down to minimum because I don't want any fills there either. I just want that hi-hat symbol. Now, if I play this back now, there we go. There it is. I like the way that the hi-hats are sort of have that sort of human feel with the dynamics as well. So it's actually quite a nice halfway house using bass drum and snare as a manual thing and then hi-hats afterwards. Now, notice there are other patterns here. If I click on the next one, it might change things. Actually, no, it hasn't, because I took the bass and the snare away, but you can actually change the pattern for subsequent sections. So maybe if it's in a chorus, you can change that. But I'm just going to, for the purposes of this demonstration, a very quick recording, I'm just going to stick with that. Now, I'm going to just make that slightly shorter, and then I'm going to, while I click and hold one, I'm just going to move them all along so that they start where the drums start, because I want that first bar to be silent for my vocals. Now, I've got my bass guitar here, which I'm going to use to stick a bass line down. Now, you can use the internal bass, but actually this phone is great for capturing ideas. So if you're an acoustic guitarist, you can do this. You can just put it in front of the mic and record your ideas full on. So I've got my amplifier here, which I'm going to switch on. The reason I left it switched off is it buzzes slightly and you can hear it on the mic. So the mic that you're hearing me on at the moment is a narration mic. It has nothing to do with the phone at all. So, okay, there's my bass. Now I need to set an audio track on the phone. So I click plus and then find audio recorder. I'm going to go more sounds, fun and clean. Now what that does is it actually establishes a completely neutral track. It doesn't put any effects on. We can look at those in a minute. Now I've just got to make sure, yeah, the level isn't too high for the mic. I'm just going to turn it down slightly just to give myself a bit of wriggle room. You can see the little telltale level there. There we go. You don't want it too quiet, but not too loud either, because you don't want to distort it. So I'm going to put the bass line down now. So there's going to be a bar of silence. Now, I'd ideally like to record from where the drums come in. So I'm going to move the cursor there and press record. Now, for the sake of your tune, if you have anything that's looped like the drums, it's a good idea to try and play an entire performance on your other instruments, because then it hides the fact that you've looped something. So if I go back to the beginning now, go back to the brick wall symbol, you can see that there's a blue file there, which is the audio recording of my bass. Let's hear that back. I mean, that's the internal mic of this phone. I hope you'll agree that's a pretty good sound, just from an amp going into the phone. No trickery here, it's just the mic in the phone. Now, put a bit of rhythm guitar on now, so the same thing applies here. I'm going to put a complete performance down. So the guitar, because this is a guitar amp, it's likely to be a bit louder than the bass. So I've just got to check that my input level is going to be right. So I'm going to click, instead of the plus button, I'm going to click the bass one and click duplicate. That just adds another track that is exactly the same characteristics, that is just the internal mic. And then I'll just go into the microphone symbol. So that is quite a lot louder. So there we go, that'll do. So I need to go back to my main window and I need to move the cursor back to bar 2 and press go. Okay, there are too many mistakes there. You can sometimes do you can take little bars and actually replace stuff. Now this is where the undo function comes in. If I just click that undo, that takes the recording away and it automatically puts the cursor back to where you started, so you can easily do a retake. Now, what that showed me just then, the first take was just far too busy on the guitar, and it wasn't working. So sometimes when you're recording, it makes you think about, well, maybe actually that was too complicated. And it tripped me up. So I'm just going to duplicate that track once again, and I'm going to go to bar 26. And I'm just going to put a little solo on, so just for the third verse. So you just find where you need to come in, it'll give you the same counting, and away you go. So double check with the level. That'll do me. Okay, so here we go. Okay, that wasn't very good. I'll do it again. That was all right. Now, notice that when you record something and you just get rid of it and you want to do it again, the phone just goes, yep, 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 yep. It doesn't do any sort of delaying or any sort of wheels of death or anything like that. It just does exactly what you want it to do. Now, that's the guitar. Now I'm going to put some vocals on. Now, this is where the limitations of the mic really do come to the fore a little bit. But this is about putting ideas down. This is just something where you can use this as a pretty good notepad for your ideas. Not only that, if you sort of go and get Logic Pro, you can send this project straight to a computer and it just airdrops straight onto it. You can see that on some of my other videos. So I'm going to add again an audio recorder track. Go back. There we go. There's my fun and clean. There we go. So Lucille, they want this as well. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the beginning and just put some vocals down. You will hear the slight limitations of this mic, but you can do things about it. You can kind of compensate. So here we go. Lucille, you want this sister's will. Lucille, you want this sister's will. She went out and got married, but I love her still. Lucille, baby, satisfy my heart. Lucille, baby, satisfy my heart. I've been living with you, baby, and give it such a wonderful start. Okay, so, yeah. So there we go, there's our vocal track, and you can see that there. Now let's have a listen back to those vocals and just have a little, do some tidying perhaps, and some other effects that you would find on a sort of bigger studio setup, which are all available on here. So, Lucille, you want this sister's will. That's not bad, really. I'm just going to switch the metronome off now, because a tick, 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 tick will get on your nerves after a while. So, let's just have a little look at the levels. If we swipe left there, you can see that's my input level there, but I could take the vocals down ever so slightly and maybe take the rhythm guitar, leaving the bass and the drums a little bit higher, perhaps. See what happens with that. Lucille, you want this sister's will. Lucille. Now, the classic effects that we have on a vocal to bring that vocal up over everything else is a compressor. You access all the effects with the cogwheel at the top and then track controls. Now that brings up a sort of a swipeable menu there, which gives you things like your volume, whether you pan the track to the left or the right, and whether you want to listen to the track on its own. You want your sister's will. I caught it at the end of the... Okay, now we've got a compressor and then a basic treble and bass control. So it is quite present actually at the moment, the vocals. So maybe I want to take the treble down slightly, but I want to compress it. Now you can go into this and do all sorts of settings with the compressor, but sometimes just sliding that across will make that vocal stand out a little bit over the mix. She went out and got married, but I love her still. So what it's done is it's squashed the top bits of the vocal, the loudest bits, and it's actually brought up the quieter bits. So you end up with a vocal that sits nicely on top of your mix. Now I'm just going to click the reverb on as well, so it's a little bit more present. Lucille, you want this sister's will. Perhaps a bit too much, but you know, just halve the amount of reverb perhaps that you thought, and you get to a pretty good safe place. Now you can hear on the bass line, if I just go to the bass guitar track, solo that out, you can hear the tapping of the strings because it's the internal mic. But it's bass, so I can afford to take the treble off and then listen back to that. So there are things that you can do to compensate. Let's listen to it in context. She went out and got married, but I love her still. Lucille. Okay, things are going pretty well so far. Now, if I just come out of that, I'm going to add a keyboard track of some description. Let's try the Hammond organ, for example. That's pretty good. Now, actually, I'm going to do piano first because I will demonstrate the fact that it is a little bit limiting with the keyboard on here, you know. but it's for putting down ideas, and you can do this. So let's just try that. Lucille, you want dear sister's will. Lucille, you want dear sister's will. She went out and got married, but I love her still. Lucille. Okay, that's something there. You can get external keyboards, reasonably, inexpensive ones that will just go in via the camera connector kit that you can get from Apple. Only the Apple one. No cheap ones will work, be warned. Okay, so I'm actually going to just, for the second verse, I'm going to add a Hammond organ. Now, the Hammond organ on here is really very good indeed. It's there's so much you can do with it. So I'm just going to go to where the piano ends and come in with the Hammond. Lucy, baby, satisfy my heart. Lucy, baby, satisfy my heart. I'm living with you, baby, and give it such a wonderful start. And then bring the guitar in for that. So there are a few little things with that I'd want to adjust, but you can go in and, well, really, you can go down a rabbit hole with this with your mixing. Now, just one last thing with the guitar. I recorded the guitar solo through the amp, but with a clean sound. But we could overdrive that guitar. We could add the distortion that perhaps we would have wanted in the first place. But doing it this way means that you have some sort of flexibility. So this is where we go into plugins and EQ. This opens up yet more possibilities. If we go to edit, we can add distortion. Let's see what happens with that. I mean, it's not exactly going to be the distortion that you get out of a valve amp, but an instant sort of problem solver, really. So there it is. There is an example of how you would get started with GarageBand. Now, if I click My Songs, it saves that. It calls it My Song 5. So what you can do is if you click and hold on there, you can go to share, and you can share the song, and you can share it with anybody. You can share it as a MP3, or you can even go uncompressed WAV file. So you can actually export something full quality. And then if you click share, it just saves it to files, internet, wherever you like. So there it is. I think you'll agree that this is really rather fantastic, and it's just the iPhone. Nothing else was used at all.